I'm going to share with you another practice for mastering your mind, dealing with unwanted thoughts, stopping the negative thinking loops, dealing with overwhelming thoughts, all of that stuff that people typically complain about, want a solution to, right? It all kind of falls under that, that title of mastering your mind. Because if you're a slave to your mind, which is the problem of just about everyone, then you're the slave to the mind. You're not the master of the mind, right? So one of the practices is really not taking your thoughts so seriously, right? And this practice is very simple. When those negative thoughts come in, when the overwhelming thoughts, the mind storms start coming, feels like big, strong gusts of wind, and we get blown around by it. And until we actually find that stillness within ourselves, as we're on that path to the stillness within ourselves, then we're going to get blown around, right? And I've talked about this in other videos, is like any storm, right? On the outside of the storm, the wind speeds are tremendous. But the inside of the storm, the eye of the storm, it's still. On the outside of the storm, it's so noisy, right? All these big gusts of wind, rain, trees blowing down, flipping cars, all that type of stuff. But on the inside of the storm, it's silent, right? And that's what I mean by finding that center, right? Where we can observe the storm, like the eye of the storm, right? The eye that sees. We can see the storm. We are still, we are silent, and we are untouched by everything else that's happening. And this is really, the goal of mastering the mind, where you're untouchable, you're unshakable. You're not blowing around, right? So what's the practice? Back to the practice is when those gusts of wind, when the thoughts start coming and there's this feeling of that overwhelm and the feeling of the negative thoughts that come, some of those crazy thoughts that you just kind of, whoa, why did that thought come in? Where did that thought come from? Typically, there's not even that awareness yet of realizing that these thoughts are literally collections of what your environment, of what you're influenced by the collective, right? Just see them as they're just kind of random thoughts, right? That are coming in, but they're thoughts, some of these dark thoughts. Well, if you're watching these dark movies, you're watching these documentaries of serial killers and horror movies and stuff, well, yeah, that's where do you think they came from? Because what is your mind, right? Isn't your mind just a collection of thoughts, right? So you're storing these mental imprints from our environment, right? Parents give you certain beliefs. School gives you certain beliefs. Our society, our culture gives us certain beliefs, certain ways of thinking based off of the collective, your group of friends, your family, the school, your town or city, your community, your country, right? Each country has its own kind of way of thinking. Each culture, religion has its own way of thinking, right? You see that even with your group of friends, right? Even in high school, when you see like, the jocks and the punk rockers and the preppy, like they're all just kind of like different groups, but they all kind of think the same, right? So anyways, when you start seeing it like that, then these thoughts are just kind of random. They're kind of random and they just kind of, meaning like they just pop up, but it's like they're popping up from your source of influence. And there's no way to get around that, that influence. right? But that's what mastering your mind is knowing that these thoughts are coming based off of your influence. Number one, know that. So then choose your environments carefully, or remove yourself from certain environments if you don't like that kind of collective thinking. Know that collective thinking is going to have an influence on what you're then thinking, right? That's number one. Two is then starting to have some mastery over the mind to then not be so influenced by that thinking, not getting so blown around by that thinking. And in this practice that I'm sharing with you, it's not taking those thoughts so seriously. When these negative thoughts come up, when these kind of fearful thoughts come up, when the thoughts of worry and anxiety of projecting something into the future, because that's really what worry and anxiety is, right? It's anxiety usually comes from our inability to control something in the future. But how can you control something in the future? The future is unborn. How can you control something that's unborn? Right? Worrying about usually the worst case scenario that's going to happen in the future. Typically that's worry. Sadness is thinking in the past, right? Dwelling on something, holding on to something in the past. We're afraid to let go. We're afraid to accept it, right? So when we start looking at these mechanisms of thoughts and how they're kind of created, then you start developing more mastery. But we're not there just yet. But when these thoughts arise, is if we can just simply almost laugh at them, right? Laugh at them. Laughing is good. Laughter is good. Humor is good, because what it does is it opens you. Because typically when we're in this state of negativity and the negativity is coming in the mind and we're resisting these negative thoughts. Oh, I don't want them, right? We're guarding ourselves. We're closed. And laughter, the humor, really opens us. It opens us up. There's a lightness, right? If you've gone to, watched a funny movie, went to a comedy club, right? There's a lightness. You feel lighter. But it's when we are constantly bombarded with these negative thoughts, we don't see that we're really addicted to the negative thoughts, because we're further empowering the negative thoughts, propelling them by believing them to be true, which I mentioned in another video. That's another practice, right? So check that one out in the series of Mastering Your Mind. So it's very similar to just laugh at the thought. It's when we believe it to be so true and we take it to be so serious that you can see what it's doing. It's making us feel heavy. It's making us closed, right? It's contracting us more. Whereas what does laughter do, right? Lightens us up, opens us up, expands us. And you'll see that with that lightness, with that openness, with that expansiveness, you'll start seeing just how small those thoughts are compared to what you are. When we're taking life so serious, we're so contracted and closed and heavy and so small that what you actually are, pure awareness, contracts. And then because it's so contracted and so small, everything feels so overwhelming, so much bigger than you. Right? It's kind of like you being this little my baby finger, right? And the negative thoughts seem to be as big as the teacup, much bigger than the baby finger. But the baby finger is just a contraction. It's just a contraction. In reality, what it is actually it's the entire room. It's the space of the entire room. But it's contracted right now into this small baby finger. So of course, this negative thought or this worry or whatever it is seems so powerful and seems so overwhelming, right? Right? It's overwhelming compared to this baby finger. But as this baby finger starts laughing at this, it starts to open up. It's like it has the feeling of it getting bigger, which then this is not so overwhelming because in the perspective of the entire room, the space of the entire room, this teacup is very small compared to this entire room. So it's a little practice, much like just commenting on the thought. That's not true, right? It loses its power. The thought is only powerful when you take it so seriously. But if you can laugh at it, just laugh at yourself, right? That's so right. Laugh at it. Then again, it's you're disempowering the thought. You're taking back your power. You only make that. It's you that's making the thought powerful. You're making it powerful because you're believing it to be true and taking it serious. When you say that's not true, let's not give it the figure. When you say that's not true and that's not, when you say that's not true and you laugh at it, which then takes the seriousness away, you can laugh at yourself. You're just laughing at yourself, right? Then you see that that thought, it almost drops because it's what's holding it is you. What's holding it is with you. Every thought will arise and it will drop, right? It'll arise and it will fall, right? And if your mind starts slowing down, you'll start seeing that. You'll start seeing the thought arise. But it arises and it will fall. But what seems to happen is it will arise. And if we hold it, that's true. It lingers. It stays there. It's like it's, in this big space, this vast space that you are, pure awareness, is the thought arises in you. But if you empower it, if you feed it, you just say, hey, stay a little bit. Let me feed you. Are you hungry? What do you need? Right? You hold on to this thing. It's like it's then just floating. It stays there. It stays there. Right? And then there's another one that's very similar. And then there's another one. All of a sudden you have, like a negative train of thought. Then you have a big story. Right? So what we're doing is we're realizing that you are the source of the thoughts, that the thoughts are rising in you, out of you, to be experienced by you, but not you, the body, not you, the mind. You, the infinite awareness, the vast space. It's like the space in the room, not you as the baby finger. That's just a contraction, right? So then as it expands, then there's more and more space, right? It won't go right to the size of the room. It will start going from baby finger, a little bit bigger. Okay. Come at me, thoughts. You're not true. I can laugh at myself. I don't have to take it so serious, right? Then these thoughts that used to appear to be so big and powerful and overwhelming, they're not. They're not. Right? It's like I say, I always make the reference that what you are as awareness is like the sky. It's very much like the sky. Transparent, always present, there in the background. And all, the weather, the clouds are experienced in the sky. Right? So these big storm clouds, right? They feel overwhelming. If you, as the sky, get identified as a little bird in the sky, of course those things feel, the big storm clouds feel overwhelming. But when you realize that you're the sky, then again, you welcome them. All right, storm clouds, because you're also not touched by it. The sky's never touched by a storm. The storm happens in the sky, but yet the sky doesn't get wet. The sky doesn't get shocked, electrocuted by lightning, right? Doesn't become deaf from the thunder, right? So there's that shift that kind of happens. But if we're not, quote unquote, there yet, even though you are, right, is then just taking that juice, taking that power out of the thought. Again, realizing that it's you that's powering the thought. You empower the thoughts when you believe them to be true. You empower the thoughts when you believe them, when you are serious about them, when you make them so, you get so serious about it. So having the ability to just kind of laugh it off and laugh at yourself, right? Then you don't get caught in the loop. Otherwise, you then get caught in the loop. That laughter immediately, when you can laugh at yourself, right? You'll feel this lightness, this openness. You see this even with people, right? The people that can laugh at themselves, look at them. They're smiling much more than people who are serious. What do people who look serious all the time? Their eyebrows are slanted, right? There's a frown. There's like like they almost look angry all the time, right? But they're contracted. They're not open, right? You see that these people that are very serious, they're not open to try new things. Someone who laughs at themselves has a sense of humor, right? They're more open. They're lighter. There's a lightness to them. You can feel their energy, right? That's why that's the power of, any entertainer, comedian, right? They can uplift people simply with jokes. They can uplift an entire audience by just making them laugh, right? And then you go, oh, I needed that. I needed a good laugh. And you come out of the stadium, or you come out of the movies, or just even at your house watching a funny show or something. I just needed to laugh. It's in that laughter too that it's like a release. Laughing is very similar to crying. There's like an emotional release. It's an energetic release. Right? It's when we're holding on, we're contracted, we're thinking that taking life so serious, right? Taking yourself to be so serious, right? Which is, again, it's that egoic pattern, making everything so serious, taking yourself to be serious. The world is fine without you, right? It's when we think that we're the center of the world, is this ego, right? We take ourselves to be so serious. Everything has this, high standards to it, and this so much is on the line of every little thing. That is being in that contracted state, right? As we laugh, don't take the thoughts so serious. There's not a feeling of not caring, but you would say it's like that carefree. It's just not so serious. It's just, you're easygoing. All right. So that is a very helpful practice to handling some of those negative thoughts, those storms of the mind that start coming in, those kind of random thoughts that kind of, derail you sometimes, or get you kind of in a mood. Sometimes it also helps to get you out of a mood, right? Right? Well, sometimes you catch yourself after just thinking, being a negative train of thought for maybe 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, like, why am I taking this so serious? Let me just, right? It's even just when you question, why am I taking it so serious? You feel like that power, just because it's you pulling the power back from the thought. See it as you're powering the thought, right? You realize that the thought needs you. You don't need the thought. You don't need the thought. Thoughts can't exist without you. And you definitely exist without thoughts, right? That may not be in your experience when there's so many thoughts, right? But that's what you come to that realization through meditation, right? When there is the awakening, fully awake, 24/7, enlightenment, there's barely any thoughts. There's huge stretches of being thoughtless. There's no thinking here happening, but I just sit and I just don't talk. There's no thoughts, yet I'm existing. I'm existing without thoughts, right? So see that the thoughts need you to exist. So when you start realizing this, start seeing that you're empowering the thoughts by believing them to be true. You're empowering the thoughts by taking them so seriously. So right there, those two things, talked about in two different videos. You take that power back. That's not true. You're taking your power back. Why am I taking this thought so serious? You're taking your power back. So give it a shot. It's going to definitely help. And I'll see you in the next one.